Hi, meteorologist Lisa Green here with an update on our first alert weather day for today. A lot to talk about. We're going to get into the details on timing, on the threat, how severe it looks for us for tonight, and how to be prepared for it too. We've had some severe weather events, but this one has the potential to be a more significant severe weather event. Though I know each one, for anybody affected, it is a big deal. But we are watching out for strong tornadoes potentially tonight. We're watching out for the potential for some conditions that are going to be on the more active side for large hail and damaging wind gusts as well. So want to get right to it. Again, a reminder, it is a first alert weather day for us for today, and it's specifically for the nighttime hours for tonight. So we're talking about conditions that are going to ramp up for severe weather as time goes on here today. So let's take a look at the latest. This is an update from a couple of hours ago from the Storm Prediction Center, waiting on getting another potential update on our risk areas in the valley. Once we get more into the 11 o'clock hour, we'll be looking for that. And we're looking out for the enhanced risk here. So that's a level 3 risk, and that's 3 out of 5. So the areas in orange here is the area that I am talking about. So we're talking about all the way from eastern parts of Montana down I-94, all the way over toward Highway 10, Highway 34, and then beyond toward Duluth, included in this area. And one thing, if you were watching the valley today this morning, this has actually shifted northward a bit. So that's something to be aware of here this morning, that things have changed a little bit. And we've seen that risk increase. So earlier this morning, it was a little farther south and included the enhanced risk, included more places close to the South Dakota state line. With the new models coming in, it's looking a little bit farther north into right in the heart of the valley, essentially, where we may see some of those strongest storms moving through. So again, taking a look at that graphic, some things to look out for. Again, a strong tornado or two. We could see a few tornadoes, but a couple of them could be on the strong side. We're looking at 2-inch diameter hail or larger. And in addition to that, we're looking out for the potential for damaging wind gusts for us in the valley too. It could be a couple of rounds. And even if you aren't in the enhanced risk area, I do want to stress that even if you aren't in the enhanced risk area, we have the potential for severe weather everywhere tonight. It's going to be a situation where we'll all need to be on the lookout for it, but not everybody necessarily seeing those intense storms. So let's get back to those graphics. We're going to be looking at conditions that are going to be more on the active side starting later tonight. So the tornado threat, we're focusing it in on the evening hours. And so the earlier graphic I just showed you, that's the more generic overall threat. And now we're going to break down the risks for each parameter, each factor here. And again, this is that tornado threat graphic here. And I just want to be able to point to this here for you. So I'm going to bring myself back up. This area in yellow, this is what we're talking about when we're talking about the greatest risk. That is in an elevated risk category. And you can see where it's located. It's basically Highway 2 and between Grand Forks along Highway 2 and then down toward that I-94 corridor. It includes all of Cass County and Barnes and Stutzman County as well, and then stretches back over into Minnesota too. I'll step over here so you can get a better view into Minnesota. You can see places like Becker County included in this, and in addition to that, up toward Polk County too, and Bemidji included in that area of greatest risk. Now you see these dash marks on this. That means not just a greater likelihood for severe, but a greater likelihood for significant severe within this yellow area. And you know, most areas have a shot or the potential of seeing a tornado tonight, but it's specifically in that area where it's looking most likely at this point in time. So we'll bring this graphic up full for you. Again, a strong tornado or two possible heading into this evening with any supercells that develop, and that greatest risk area again in yellow. So that's the tornado threat. Let's take a look at the wind threat. This is, a couple of different colors showing up on here. The area in red, that's where we have that enhanced risk. And once again, we've got some lines going through it, meaning that we have the potential for a significant winds. And we're talking about the potential for 75+ mile per hour winds we know those can be destructive. In fact, the category for a hurricane is reaching that 74-mile-per-hour mark, sustained winds. These are wind gusts, but just to kind of give you a little perspective there. So we're watching out for that damaging wind threat overnight as well. And that's across the valley, but again, right in the heart of the valley is where we may see that more likely to happen. And similar setup for hail threats. You can see everybody's under some color code here, from isolated to enhanced threat. And then there are places where it's more likely we're going to see that large hail. So here's a look at, again, the details on that. Greater than 2 inches in diameter. That's significant. We're talking, getting up toward tennis ball size hail potentially. And one thing I want to say, that would be, kind of more at the top end. Not everybody's going to see that, but the possibility is there. So that's a breakdown of each risk that we're looking at tonight. One thing I also want to stress is that there's going to be heavy downpours, frequent lightning with these moving through as well. So let's get into the timeline. Here's a look at the latest, starting off with this afternoon. This is 4 p.m., so typical kind of warmest time of the day temperatures, and we're looking at conditions that are going to be more into the low 80s north, upper 80s to near 90 in the south. And one thing I want to point out too is that wind coming in out of the southeast, that tends to pump in some Gulf moisture. Dew points are going to be on the increase. We're looking at winds picking up, gusts 20s to 30 miles per hour. And that will help to fuel some of these thunderstorms developing here for tonight. And it's that warm air mass, that heat dome that you've probably been hearing about moving into the plains and into the Midwest, that will be impacted by, and it's on the nose of that moisture and that heat that we're watching for that storm development. So as we go through time here, we're going to see the potential for storms to develop this evening. Now this is 6 p.m. This particular model right now not showing the storm starting at that point in time. But there is that possibility. So I do want to stress that we want to start paying attention around dinner time, around drive time this evening. Check that radar, especially if you're going to be traveling or away from your TV. Make sure you've got that VNL weather app downloaded so you can get the latest alerts, and so you can keep an eye on the radar as well. So we want to start keeping an eye out at that point in time. But as we go through time here, you can see as we get into the 8 o'clock hour, we're still watching out for this. And it may not be until we get into the late night hours tonight that we see those storms form. Now, I want to stress again that they could start popping even earlier than that. So we want to be prepared. This is just one model run, one model's interpretation of what we may experience. Here's a look at the 10 o'clock hour here. You can see that we are seeing one little thunderstorm starting to pop up. I shouldn't say little. They're going to, when they start to develop, they will be explosive. We're talking about them really ramping up fast, and that possibility for all three of those significant severe weather factors will start to develop, and you can see that lining up here. I'm going to bring up that graphic full so I'm not blocking that for you. Again, this is into the later evening hours. We're looking out at that timeline from 6 p.m. all the way until midnight and beyond for that potential for rain and storms. And so we'll move ahead here. And you can see thunderstorms kind of, first of all, starting off as discrete supercells. It may evolve into more of a line of storms, or we could see 2 rounds. We could see the supercells first and then another line developing overnight. Once we start to get that evolution, the concern becomes more of a straight line wind event. Could still see some tornadoes on the edge of that line, but still looking at the straight line winds into the overnight hours being the greater risk. And in fact, you can see that, let me try to draw here. We've got that inverted C. You may have heard us talk about that in the past, where that's what we would call a bow echo, where the line is bowing out because we've got these winds pushing, these straight line winds pushing that line. And that's where we often see a lot of our wind damage with these kind of storms. So again, this is 3 a.m. So we're still looking at this being a possibility into the very wee hours of the morning, tomorrow morning, and then that moves on. So again, this is going to be a nighttime and overnight event. And with it being that kind of event, there's some greater concerns here. We may see storms develop before the sun sets, which would be good for spotting things like tornadoes developing, but there is a potential we could see them develop in the overnight hours, making it harder to spot. And another concern, overnight hours when a lot of us are sleeping too. And that's why it's so important to make sure you have a way to get alerts, a way to be woken up when these storms are moving through here for tonight. So let's move into the preparation for these. So want to make sure we're securing our furniture. We give you this these hints last night for the severe weather we were seeing last night, and same goes for tonight. Get that car in the garage. It's some pretty large hail potential. If you've got some sensitive plants, potted plants, bring them in. Cell phone fully charged. That's important if you lose power. And of course, VNL weather app, want to have that downloaded, and multiple ways to receive notifications. And so speaking of, we want to make sure we're staying informed, especially again during these overnight events. You don't want to rely on just one. So you can download the VNL weather app, set those alerts to alert you where you are. If you're going to be traveling, if you're going to be away from home, it's a Friday night. I know a lot of people are out and about on a Friday night, or you're not maybe staying at home like you normally would during the work week. Maybe you're thinking about camping. That's something I would maybe think about here, because you want to make sure that you are you have access to a sturdy shelter. But you know, you want to have multiple alerts to wake you up. So, because you don't want to get woken up by the storm, because that gives you less time to get to your safe space. You want it to alert you before it arrives. So VNL weather app, of course, you can turn to us at valleynewslive.com. On the air too, we'll be keeping you informed. And the NOAA weather radio, great tool for, again, keeping you informed. Another way of being alerted. Wireless emergency alerts on your devices too, also important. And sirens, that's something that is a great supplemental alert, but a reminder that sirens aren't in every community, those outdoor sirens, and each community or county has different protocols for sounding those sirens. And in addition to that, you may not be able to hear them where you are. So don't rely on hearing sirens. It's a great tool if you have them, but not everybody does. So don't count that as your one of two ways to be alerted when we're talking about severe weather. So again, that's going to be a big factor for overnight storms for tonight. In addition to that, we just want to talk about just making sure you and your family are prepared. Hopefully, you know, we talked about this during Severe Weather Awareness Weeks in North Dakota and Minnesota. But hopefully you already have a plan for your family in your home and in any location you plan to be at, your lake cabin. If you are camping, know where your storm shelter is, because again, RV, camper, trailer, not going to be a safe space to be during a tornado warning. So again, just some reminders here. You want to head to the lowest level of your home. You want to get into your hallway, you know, an interior hallway, closet, a room that doesn't have windows, bathroom may be that best option, under stairs if you can, and then cover yourself with blankets for protection. Protect your head, especially here in case there's any debris. And, you know, I joke about this, but I think it is important to say the deck is not a good place to be. I know we're all Midwesterners. We want to first see, where's this storm? You hear the siren, the first thing you think to do is to look out the window or step out onto the deck to see where it is and if it's coming. That wastes precious seconds if you've got a storm upon you. So again, I know the urge, but just head immediately to your safe space. The deck is not a good place to be. Just a reminder about that. And then, you know, of course, lowest level of your home. So whether that's the first floor or even better, your basement, that's where you want to be here with this type of situation. So that's the plan for at home. It's a similar plan for, you know, if you're in a bigger building, an apartment, an office, a school. I don't know if anybody's going to be at school late tonight, especially since school is out, but still something to keep in mind is you want to get into an interior low-level hallway and protect yourself. The other situation, of course, is the mobile home, RV, campers. Evacuate those shelters because they are not sturdy or safe. And again, you want to make sure you already know where that shelter is going to be, and review these plans with your family again before tonight. Hopefully we don't have anything to be concerned about tonight, but as you see on our storm risk map here, this is an enhanced risk. It's a 3 out of 5. It looks like the ingredients are there that we could see some stronger tornadoes develop with those stronger wind gusts and large hail too. You don't want to get caught out and hit by 2-inch diameter hail as well. So again, let's take a look at, this is today. I do want to just briefly talk about this weekend. We are looking at Saturday now, a level 1 marginal risk. I'm not impressed by our chances for storms during the day on Saturday, simply because it's going to be very hot. It might be too hot for those storms, but still the energy will be there. So if that can overcome the warmer temperatures aloft, then we may see some storms develop. So just want to give you a heads up for that as you're planning your weekend. And then in addition to that, on Sunday, there is a slight risk for some severe storms. It's going to be, again, hot and muggy. There's going to be a front moving through, and that may be the focal point for some storms to develop. And we did just raise a first alert weather day for Sunday. So it's something to keep in the back of your mind. The risk isn't as great as what we're looking at for tonight, but again, as you're looking ahead to your weekend, keep that in mind for Sunday as well. So let's take a look at that heat I mentioned. We've got that heat dome moving in. You can see where the core of the heat is going to be more likely in our region, and that's going to be the Minneapolis area down towards Sioux Falls. That's where we have an extreme heat warning for the weekend, but parts of our viewing area, south and east, will be kind of tapping into that heat a little bit more than those places to the north and west, and so that's why we're under a heat advisory. Some of us, it starts Saturday, the rest of us on Sunday. So again, kind of working its way up through the weekend with heat index values. That's, again, heat index, a reminder, that's that combo of temperature and the mugginess in the air. If it's muggy, if it's super duper humid out there, it makes it harder for your sweat to evaporate, and that means your body, it can't cool down as well when we're dealing with that. So something to keep in mind here as we're heading into the weekend for that heat. So, and we haven't seen that yet this season, so want to make sure we remind ourselves to stay hydrated. And if you don't have air conditioning at home, try to find ways to take some breaks and maybe go to the library, go to some place that does for a couple of hours, because heat is the number one. I want to stress this, heat is the number one killer in the U.S. It sneaks up on you, and it's the cumulative heat over time, over days, that takes its toll. So again, if you can take some breaks from the heat, even if you don't have air conditioning at home, that'll be really helpful here heading into this weekend. And it's also something just to remember as we continue on into the summer. So again, heat advisory and extreme heat warnings for those places in the southeast. Just a quick look at our heat risk probability today. We're in that orange category in the Southern Valley. We may see temperatures get toward that 90-degree mark, so we're in that moderate category. And then heading into Saturday, you see that heat creeping in, that major red category, creeping into Lakes Country, up to the Fargo area, but the core of it is farther south. That starts to make its way eastward into Sunday. And one other thing to point out is notice places like Grand Forks, Devil's Lake, the risk is little to no risk or minor risk in those areas on Sunday. So those are places that, will still be warm heading into the weekend, but not nearly as hot as spots to the south and east. So by Monday, this is all moving eastward, and we're seeing our experience shift into the week next week. Heat risk index is relatively new, so just kind of a reminder of the heat-related impacts with some of these categories. That red major category, this is a level of heat that affects anyone who is not finding effective cooling and or adequate hydration. So we all need to be taking those precautions. Of course, our more vulnerable population will want to start taking those precautions sooner than that, but everybody is impacted when we get into that red category when it comes to the heat. And just a quick couple of reminders here about beating the heat. Air conditioning, hydration, we just talked about that. Cut down on exercise during hot days. If you get too hot, you get overheated, want to take that cold shower, bath, that can be helpful. Avoid cooking. You don't want to add any more heat to your home. Loose clothing helps your skin to breathe. And find shade if you're outside. That's for sure in the hottest time of the day. And of course, this is important any time of the year, but when we get into these hot days, it becomes even more of a concern. Make sure you're checking your back seat for kids, pets. Don't want to leave anybody behind, even just for a minute, in these kind of temperatures coming up for this weekend, and heat index values for those areas. And on a quick lighter note, one thing that's getting overshadowed today is it's the summer solstice. So I just wanted to quick go over that really for today. We're not really gaining much daylight. You can see today's sunrise and sunset just about the same as tomorrow's as we move past the solstice. We're currently gaining only 4 seconds of daylight, and we are looking at losing daylight as we move ahead. So for the month of June, when we have our solstice, we don't gain a lot over the course of the month. Up in the northern tier of the U.S., it's only about 10 minutes of daylight that we gain during the month. So that's nice, because that means that we get to hold on to these longer days for longer than just one day. But as we move through June, the loss of daylight, or excuse me, July, the loss of daylight does accelerate. We lose about 50 minutes of daylight in July. So enjoy these days while you can. July will still be a bright month as well, of course. We've got a long ways to go before we see the daylight really lose here. And just one thing to bask in is just how much daylight do we have today? Well, the solstice officially happens at 9:42 tonight. And we are looking at a total of 15 hours, 52 minutes, and 42 seconds of daylight today. So enjoy that. But keep in mind, around the solstice time, that's when we're looking out for that potential for some of our severe weather developing and that potential for storms. So to get back to that topic, here's a look at our headlines for today. Again, we're first alerting you to severe storms for tonight, and we're looking out for a significant event. The possibility for storms that will be developing this evening and then continuing on into the overnight hours. So I can't stress this enough. If you're traveling, make sure you have a way to be alerted. You can set the VNL weather app to follow you. You set your alerts to follow you if you're leaving your home city and home county. And in addition to that, want to make sure you have that plan in place and know what to do. That way, if you're woken up by an alert in the middle of the night, you're not, trying to figure it out. You're already knowing where you're headed to your safe space if you have any warnings. And then severe storm risk for us is all modes, all risks possible. We went over that earlier. We're talking about some significant risks, the potential for a strong tornado, the possibility for some large hail, some damaging wind gusts here with the overnight storms. And then the hot weekend ahead is coming our way as well with that increased heat risk because of not just 90s for some of us, but also that combination with the humidity here in the forecast. So we'll leave you with the extended planner. Again, today is a first alert weather day. So we're looking at today being, again, that risk for severe weather coming up for especially this evening and the overnight hours tonight. Heading into Saturday, you can see it's going to be toasty into those low 90s in Fargo coming up for us here. Hot and humid. I think a lot of the storms from overnight will move on pretty early on Saturday, but still there's the potential we could have some still lingering. And then into Sunday, again, just a reminder, we've just raised a first alert weather day for Sunday for the risk for more severe storms. The risk not as great as today, but still you could be one of the places that gets hit by some hail or some wind gusts coming up for Saturday as we make that transition from this hot air mass back into that cooler air mass here. So here's a look at that extended planner. We'll bring that full screen again. You can see that heading into Monday, overnight Sunday night into Monday, we'll see that chance for some storms, and then we're about 20 degrees cooler from Saturday to Monday at that point with highs in the 70s. And so if you're not liking this heat, not looking forward to this weekend, we've got some quick relief in sight. This is not going to be an extended heat wave coming up, but it will be more active. We're still looking at more chances for rain and some thunderstorms here in the forecast coming up for today. So again, we want to just make sure that you are staying weather aware. So hopefully this helped you kind of make some plans for tonight. If you are going to be away from home, just check on the app, make sure you're keeping an eye on the weather and that you've got that severe weather safety plan wherever you happen to be for tonight. Meanwhile, we'll continue to be here for you at Valley News Live. We've got our entire team working on this one, and throughout this evening and into the overnight hours, we'll be here as long as storms are threatening to warn you and keep you up to date on the latest conditions. So I hope you have a good weekend and hope you stay safe for tonight with that threat for severe weather coming up. In the meantime, enjoy your Friday and your summer solstice.